What is up, Cornhole fans? Welcome to Around the ACL. No Mish this week. No Michelle Thompson. So you guys get this ugly bunch of guys here trying to put on this Around the ACL. It is myself, Trey Ryder, Anthony Ione, and Jake Brannon. And this is going to be an especially great show because Jake Brannon logged on 5 seconds before that intro video stopped. So
Let's go, baby.
we're just gonna live by the seat of our pants here and just see what happens here. Obviously, a great show that we're gonna have for you this week as we are recapping all things Cornhole Mania from Las Vegas that happened this past weekend. So much to talk about, so many ins and outs. Anthony was there. Jake, you were not there. Jake, were you just absolutely dying that you weren't in Las Vegas?
Yes and no. I'm kind of glad that I didn't go to Vegas. I feel like I would have spent way too much time in the casinos. So I'm glad I got to, stay away from that. But man, I tell you what, I was glued to my TV all weekend long, watching the ESPN broadcast, watching the live streams, watching everything. So it was a really fun weekend as a cornhole fan, just being able to sit and watch all of it unfold.
Anthony, did you escape without too much gambling debt? I mean, I don't know. Are you a gambler?
Oh yeah, I enjoy. I'm not crazy. I set a budget. I'm very strict to it. You'll never see me dipping over to the machine to pull more cash out. Like I'm really regimented on that. But man, my gambling was 15 minutes long.
Gone just like that.
Oh my gosh! It was. I was hanging out with Sean Latham and Jeff McGarriger. I think Jamie Graham was there for just a short while before we kind of got onto the tables or during the beginning. But man, Sean Latham, he's all fired up. He's like, "Oh, this is my game. This is my game." And I was like, "Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you. I like this game too." And I was like, "All right, I'm gonna go all in on your roll." I waited for the dice to come back around. It gets to him, and then I jump in. $250 was gone in 15 minutes. So it was like already, I don't know, 2 a.m. at that point. And I'm like, you know what? If I'm going in, I'm gonna be here like a while. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna pull out at this point. But that was it. 15 minutes gone.
Well, it happens. You can gamble for a long time, or you can gamble for no time at all. Especially if you're playing I'm assuming you're probably playing craps, because if you're playing craps, that money can go quick in craps.
Yeah, it was gone, man.
Yeah, but it was a great weekend. Like I said, in this week's episode, we're going to talk all things about Cornhole Mania in Las Vegas, and to kick things up and start it off, we got to talk a little bit about the Open, which is everything aside from our TV broadcasts. Of course, kicking things off on Friday, we had Sam Finley taking down women's, Steve Schrader taking down seniors, and then Tony Forbes taking down juniors. Then on Saturday, we had Quinn Reeves and Candler Bag take down doubles. And then singles, we had Devin Harbaugh getting his second Open singles win of the year. So, Jake, I know you said you were glued to your TV watching all weekend. Any initial thoughts on the Open as we dive into some of those main events?
I mean, the biggest storyline for me is that these amateur players, these elite players continue to impress, continue to shine, especially Quinn Reeves. A little bit of a slow start to the season so far, but with a big win on the broadcast that we'll get into in a little bit, and then another big win in an Open doubles title with Candler Bag. I mean, it just goes to show that this kid has improved a lot over the season as it has progressed. And, I'm excited to see what he can do the rest of the season. Only a couple more Opens to go, so we'll see if he can keep it up. I mean, meanwhile, also you got Devin Harbaugh, who just continues to do Devin Harbaugh things. I think a lot of people were going to expect a little bit of a better game, considering what Jackson Gore had to do to beat Trey Birchfield to make it to the overall finals. I think he shot like an 11-4-7, I believe, in the semifinal game, and then kind of laid a goose in the finals, which, it happens, but you got to give credit to Harbaugh for showing up, showing out. I mean, he was dominant all day, throwing those new Ultra Viper X's. So it just goes to show that these dudes can continue to sling with the best of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting before we jump over to Anthony, right? I mean, if I had told you before the weekend began that we would get 2 players coming out of the weekend with 2 titles, okay? If you guess Jeremiah Ellis, like, fine. Like, Jeremiah Ellis is probably one that everybody would think would be one of those 2 candidates. But where on that list would have Quinn Reeves have been? It probably would have been, like, of those on the broadcast court, dead last.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you were to look at him versus his partner, a lot of people would have picked Tony Forbes over Quinn Reeves to get a second title. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
yeah.
I just could not believe seeing that for Quinn Reeves, especially from what we saw in West Wago when he played for the Michigan Marauders. Not that he wasn't good, but he certainly wasn't great, and not 2 title winning great. So we'll talk a little bit more about the broadcast in a little bit, but yeah, initial opening thoughts, Anthony, around the Open coverage from this weekend.
Yeah, you talked about the singles final with Harbaugh. You know, it was kind of weird how that last game played out. I mean, if you look at Gore coming into it, you gave a little stat there. It was 97 of 104 bags in the hole in the semifinal. I mean, this kid was cooking. I think there was a 56 streak at some point in that, 56 bags in a row. And then you get to that final, and it's really weird when you look at the stats. It doesn't really – I watched the game back, and it didn't really if you just look at the stats, you're like, oh, he sucked. But he didn't really suck, although I think that's exactly what his post said. His media post was, I suck. But, you get into it, and it was just a couple bags just not going his way. He shot a 7.29 in the final, coming off an 11.3 or 4 or something like that. So you're talking dropping 4 points per round. I think the whole match was done in 6 or 7 rounds. I mean, it was that fast, but it was like the speed looked a little bit slow for him. Bags kept checking up a little bit slow, where Harbaugh, it just looked like he wasn't working as hard. He was hitting the same spots, but his bag was kind of catching the side of the hole and kind of doing a little loopy-loop. And then, Jackson would have to kind of step out or come up with a tough push, and then he would jam 2 up against the side. Everything's on the hole, but he's just out of bag, so he gives up a 4. And then he's stuck with, a couple rolls that would roll, and it just wouldn't roll in. It would sit on the pile or kind of get wedged on the top. So then he's coming behind it with like an airmail that would hit the spot, but then bounce off the back. That's just kind of how the match went for him. I mean, it wasn't like he was terrible. It was just this, just pile of laundry that he couldn't figure out how to get something to fall. But yeah, Devin Harbaugh, just killing it. I was kind of just cruising through some of the brackets. Harbaugh had Gavin Cano in his path, in his bracket. And I'm sure when these boys are opening up their brackets, they're looking at each other going, okay, this is who I'm going to run into to get to the king seat match, because they were on the left side as well. So they weren't even going to run into each other in the finals. And if you look at the Gavin Cano, they had to play each other 3 times. Cano loses the first one 2 points. It was 21-19. So Harbaugh gets that win. And then coming back up, Gavin Cano does what he does. He smokes that match. It was like 22-8. So he wins by, 14 points, but then loses in the second scoop with 18. So if you look at the overall points, Gavin Cano actually won the battle between points, but it was Harbaugh that won the games. Also coming out of that one, out of that side of the bracket, other side of the bracket, Ryan Wiedenfeld. I got a good look at him this weekend. We were kind of messing around on the feature court. And I think that's going to be some of the theme, I think, in this today's podcast, is just how deep the talent is. When you can spend some time and just watch someone closely when they're messing around too. Wiedenfeld's developing a left hand. He's developing a reverse mamba. He has a 90-degree cut that we haven't really seen highlighted yet. I mean, he could put that thing up on an edge. He's doing these shots where I'm just like, dude, how good are you? But then you look at the ranks, and it just goes to show, like, the field is so deep, and maybe it comes down to decision making and things like that. But just high level thoughts. I think the takeaway is and keep this in mind as we talk through, is the field is so deep. When we start talking rankings, when we start talking finishes, it's not as easy to predict anymore who your top 10 is going to be, who's going to be in the final in a tournament. I think that point of the game is gone, because anyone can come in and win this now.
Yeah. I think you made a really good point, Anthony, about Wiedenfeld, is because, I think that's maybe why him and Ryan Smith are such a good doubles team, right? Does Ryan Smith give Ryan Wiedenfeld a little bit of direction, vision, and keep him a little bit more focused and give him a little bit better decision-making advice to let Ryan Wiedenfeld just throw the way that he wants to with a little bit more structure, right? Because as an individual player, he's shown time and time again that he can have those one-off tournaments where he's right there at the end where he's winning everything, but more and more often he's having a little bit of inconsistency when it comes to singles play. So perhaps a reason that, in doubles play, he does so well, because they finished third overall in the Open. Again, it was an all amateur final in Open doubles. I mean, I said the same thing to you, Anthony. I remember pulling up my Fan Zone app because we were getting ready to go live on broadcast, right? Or you were getting ready to go live. So we kind of checking everything as it was going on Saturday. And then I was like, is this for real? And the same time I pulled up my phone, you guys had your bracket on your phone looking at the finals for the Open doubles. And I remember we're like, is this tier 2 or is this like the actual one? I mean, but sure enough, it's an all amateur final as well. So
yeah,
certainly.
speaking of that doubles, it was kind of cool how it played out. It was Nick Thompson, right? He goes, have you seen Emacs? And I'm like, who? And this is kind of how it goes nowadays. You got so many. All right. 3 years ago, people would come up to me like, have you seen this guy, Robert whatever, or John whatever? And I'm like, man, no. But you got to keep in mind, there's 256 pros, another 100-something elites on top of that. Then you're looking at the top amateurs in the nation. So when you get down to that really good local player out of the south side of Cali or whatever, it's like, no, I haven't seen that guy. But here's a good example of a guy, is Nick Thompson. He was like, have you seen Emacs? And I'm like, no, I don't even know who that is. And then a good bag when you see it. You're walking around every once in a while. I'll just kind of look up and I'll see a bag and I'm like, I got to go see who's throwing that bag, because you recognize talent or a bag when you see it. So I walk over and this kid is throwing the bag and I'm like waiting for him to turn around. You're just people with jerseys is actually helpful, because when they turn around, you get a name at least, or a last name or something. Little kid turns around. Sure as shit, it says Emacs on the back. So I was like, okay, I'm going to sit and watch this kid for a little while. So that ends up being the actual name of Ethan, and I don't know how to say it, Farias maybe is the last name, who was one of the kids that ends up in that doubles final. So yeah, there's just another example of, you've got another 14-year-old kid who's been crushing it for a year, in his backyard, and all of a sudden he shows up and almost takes down an Open or whatever. So yeah, the field's just getting too deep, man. Everybody's good.
I will say that's one of the downsides of not being able to go to Vegas, because like I'm looking through the brackets too. I'm seeing these names pop up, and I'm seeing all these social media posts. And look, I gotta be honest, I feel like I'm pretty confident that I could pick out like a really good cornhole players in a crowd. Like if I know faces, but
yes.
I don't think I've ever even heard of this kid before. And then he's winning open brackets and doubles, and getting dozens of social media posts made about him. So, props to this kid, man. I'm excited to see what he can do.
Yeah, Jake, you would do the same thing I would do. If you saw that bag in flight, you would go, wait a minute.
Yeah,
I got to go see whose bag that is. And I'm just looking at his bracket right now. I mean, these are some of the players that Emacs and his partner, Julius, I don't even know who that is either. I assume they're both out of Cali, but they take down Justin Burton Jr. and Logan Chamberlain in round 3, 22-11. So already when that happens in a bracket and you see two names you don't recognize, you're like, who are these people? So I can imagine people are following, like going to court 41 to see the matchup against Jalen Jones and Landon Crabtree. They win that one. Then they win the match to get to the king seat against two more players I've never heard of, and then take down Ryan Smith and Ryan Wiedenfeld in that final twice. They knock him down to the loser and then catch him coming up. So it's, man, the talent just continues to get deep. And I think when we talk about the rankings later, it's going to feed into that discussion as well. You just can't pick your top 10s as easy anymore, guys.
You cannot. You absolutely cannot. And speaking of top 10s, it's time to talk about our recap of Las Vegas. On the pro side of things, conclusion of 6 main events, of course, paired up with the Super Bowl broadcast as well. National singles, your back-to-back national singles champion is Jeremiah Ellis. In national doubles, you have a new number 1 team in the world in Jeremiah Ellis and Ryan Hart. My goodness, we talk about Jeremiah Ellis having a lead for Rookie of the Year. No, he's got a lead for MVP, guys. National doubles, Ellis and Hart. Shootout singles, the magician Eric Davis gets it done. Shootout doubles, another emergence of these elite players. Forbes and Reeves complete one of the probably the greatest Cinderella story I've seen in cornhole, for them to win shootout doubles outright against 2 teams that they beat in these games. Incredible. And then Cheyenne Bubenheim says, I've had enough about this doubt talk. She wins pro women's singles and pro women's doubles alongside Cameron Belvin. Rawls and Tim Settle Jr., as well as Tanner Halbert, Alex Madison take down the 2 Super Bowl events. It was a ton of fun. Man, pick anywhere you want, Jake, where you want to start. Just an epic broadcast weekend.
Look, I'll start at the very top with Jeremiah Ellis winning national singles. I mean, in my opinion, the biggest storyline coming into this weekend was the battle between Jeremiah Ellis and Gavin Cano for that number 1 spot. Jeremiah had a little bit of an edge, but with Gavin double dipping Jeremiah to win his shootout bracket in Colorado, that kind of narrowed the gap a little bit. So I think it was really going to come down to this. I was really hoping for a Gavin versus Jeremiah final again. However, with Gavin losing to Adam Hisser in the first round and obviously Jeremiah winning the overall tournament, I think there's no debate that Jeremiah is the number 1 player in the entire world of cornhole right now. You got to give him credit for that. I mean, it was just utter dominance. And, I'll even take a little quote from a little X post I saw earlier in the week that, I mean, Jeremiah Ellis is halfway to a cornhole grand slam, which has never even been mentioned before because nobody's ever won 2 national singles titles in a row to start a season. So it's hard to comprehend how dominant this dude is right now. And I know that's all we've been talking about. That's all the social media posts are. Man, Jeremiah is so good. Everybody else stinks. But I mean, it is kind of crazy how insanely consistent he has been. And I don't think anybody's going to stop him, at least not right now. I mean, the other person that I was really impressed with was Eric Davis in that shootout singles final. In both the semis and the finals match, he had a bag in hand. If he misses, he loses. If he goes in, he wins, and he nails them both. So I think, looking at the top 10 standings, you got to consider putting Eric Davis at that number 3 spot right now. I think 1 and 2 are still pretty similar, but then you look at 3 on down. It's a dogfight for those 3 through 6 or 7 spots, and I'm really excited to see how the rest of this season pans out. I don't want to talk about everything, but shout out Quinn Reeves, Tony Forbes. I said it in Around the ACL a couple weeks ago. I said one of the overreaction Wednesday slots was, do you think that Quinn Reeves and Tony Forbes get shut out by Mark Richards and Tony Smith? And I said that was a huge overreaction. The way they were playing, and if they can play if they can play as consistent as they know they can, not only would I be surprised if they obviously score a point, I wouldn't be surprised if they win the entire thing. And wouldn't you know it, that's exactly what happens. Got to give huge props to those 2. It was so fun to watch them play. Man, I mean, I got a little bit before I do anything else this afternoon. When we get done with this, I'm going to turn on ESPN Plus and go rewatch that entire broadcast.
Yeah, certainly. Look, you said it. I still can't believe it. It doesn't make sense to me that Forbes and Reeves won. I mean, if you go back and watch what Tony Smith and Mark Richards do to anybody else, I don't know what it is. They didn't play that well against Reeves and Forbes, and they just, Reeves and Forbes just took advantage. Then you get to the finals, Ellis and Hart wouldn't have lost to 2 superheroes in the semifinals, and then they get to the finals and they just not able to finish. And Reeves and Forbes were able to finish, and I think that shows a lot of maturity and a lot of potential for those. So, Anthony, thoughts to add on all of our broadcasts from this past weekend?
Yeah, sure. I'll just cruise through them kind of as they happen. So we open up the weekend with shootout singles. We got Alex Rawls in a semifinal. Finally, he's a guy that I didn't think would be kept out of that for too long. We know how consistent he is, back to back, second best player in the world. Didn't really get anything going on the broadcast. Braden Wilson was just nice. I mean, he made all the right shots. He stayed down the middle. When he needed a better there than in block, he hit it. When he needed that roll to work or the airmail to hit, he hit it. And that got him to move on into that final. And kind of the same thing with Kano versus Davis. I expected, that one to go a little bit differently. Kano with now 5 of 8 shots at taking down a national title. So you take, 2 doubles and 2 singles in each of the nationals. So 8 total opportunities. He's been in 5 of the semifinals. And then we look at Ellis, who's also been in 5 of the 8, and he's got his 3 out of those. So Connell just keeps coming up short. I mean, it's like, I thought the singles win for him at the previous Open before this weekend was going to kind of break the seal for him a little bit. That was a big win, especially on the singles side, doing it without Fisher Hamilton on the other side. But just things weren't going his way. I don't know how it played into it, but the kid got sick. He was actually out of commission for 24 hours before going on the broadcast, taking meds, shut down in the hotel room. Not sure how that played into the final, but certainly that could have been a factor. And yeah, Davis, man, he's just, I think the bag is a big deal for him. I think we know how good his shots are and how he's been able to manipulate shots with a super sticky, kind of a grungy bag in the past. Now throwing a little bit more speed bag, a lot more hole friendliness than he's used to, but still the capability to shape those shots. I think that's been a huge factor for him. And I think it might be kind of like, I think on the broadcast, we were calling it conservatively aggressive is the way Eric Davis would describe his game now, where in the past he was just ruthlessly aggressive. There was no conservative piece of that. I think that he a little bit change in the way he's approaching the game, maybe backing off that one shot. I saw a couple times where he laid up, where he certainly could have done a Davis, magician shot, but he would lay up and take the 1 or take the 2. And I think those little moments, if you look at the end, he had to hit the last bag to win. If he maybe made a different decision in the middle of that match, round 4, round 5, he might not have been in a position for in to win. So I think that's playing out really well for Eric Davis. In national doubles, Jake, I'm really interested in what your thoughts are. So we had, Harbaugh and Malone teaming up in this one. We ended up having this all ultra final. Did you have a chance to watch that national doubles with,
So I will say this was the only format that I did not have the ability to watch.
Okay.
But it was really funny because I actually had my friend texting me the entire time as I was out doing my own thing. And the one thing he texted me, it just stayed with me. He says in the finals match, he said you have Kyle Malone, Devin Harbaugh, and Jeremiah Ellis all on the court. And he told me that Ryan Hart was the best player on the court the entire match. And I said, wow. So I still haven't had a chance to watch it, but I'll have to see it to believe it. But man, got to give him credit. We talk a lot about Ryan Hart not, living up to the spotlight that Jeremiah Ellis has been holding. But obviously after this performance, he's right up there with him.
Yeah. What my ask to you was going to be is I could not make sense of the game plan that Kyle Malone came in with. We know Kyle Malone lives in the 11 PPR range. That's how he makes it to brackets. That's what he did the last time he was in Vegas with Cody Johnson going through Matt Guy and Jamie Graham. He threw like an 11-1 to get to the broadcast. He threw more blocks in that one game than I saw him through the entire tournament the last time we were in Vegas. So I don't know. He was throwing a different bag. It was that new Viper X. So we're talking the herringbone versus the Viper R style carpet. I don't know if the speeds were just a little bit slower, but I'm sitting there waiting for Kyle Malone to go running bags. When you watch that broadcast, you're going to see multiple clogs, multiple scenarios. He had to go push his own bag because, like you said, Ryan Hart was killing it. He was either airmailing over the top or he was rolling over it. So now Kyle Malone's left with pushing through, this kind of slow, sticky bag. So he's giving up two, clogging to give up 4 or 6. And I'm sitting there going, when the heck is Kyle Malone going to run bags? I think that was the difference in that final.
Well, so Kyle was lined up against Ryan, correct?
Yeah.
So I wonder.
No,
I'm thinking. Was it?
Do you remember how that was lined up? I want to say he was next to. Yeah, you're right. I think you're right. I can't remember actually.
So assuming he was lined up next to Ryan, I wonder if his thought process was, down on the other end, it's going to be hard for Harbaugh to be scoring a lot of points on Jeremiah. So I wonder if Malone's thought process was to continue to block, assuming Ryan, not going to live up to his expectations, is going to start missing, and Malone can start manufacturing points. That would be my only thought process, because I guess if you think about it on paper, you would assume that Ryan Hart is a weak link out of those 4. So if you can get your blocks down and capitalize on mistakes, that you would just continue to score points. But as we said, Ryan Hart was just all over him, hitting rolls, hitting air mails, doing whatever it takes. So I don't know.
That is how there was the other match too. So I was trying to get him right. That is how it lined up. It was Malone versus Hart. And I'm sorry, but if I'm Kyle Malone, I'm not trying to block Ryan Hart. Yeah. I know I'm Kyle Malone. I can outrun you. I'm going to put more bags in the whole period. Yes, Ryan Hart's great, but maybe I'm going to go 35 in a row. You're going to go 27 in a row. I'm going to get my points. Plus my airmail is ridiculous.
So maybe it was a confidence thing then. Maybe it was Malone saying, man, I just don't have it today. I can't go 35 out of 36. So let me start laying some blocks down and figuring it out from here. So I don't know.
Really weird.
Ryan Hart may be the weakest link on that board, maybe, but he's got the best roll bag.
He's got the best roll bag.
Of those 4, he's better than Ellis at rolling the bag. I tell you that right now. Guarantee it. Right? Facts. I mean, so
he's better than Harbaugh rolling a bag?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Harbaugh will tell you he's not a roller.
Yeah, I was going to say Ryan Hart's best rollback player on that court. So anything blocking him, I don't think is a good idea at all.
Yeah, so Ellis Hart get that one. And then we moved on to the women's doubles. And I'm sitting here, Bubenheim and Belvin basically ran away with it. But if we just talk about women's in general, because we'll talk about Bubenheim again in singles, it's like, I thought at this point, it almost feels like the women's division is the men's division 3 years ago, where all the men were running bags. And then you had this dirty game come in. I've been waiting for some female to come in and change the outlook of the women's division. But what we end up getting is we get these bag running finals. If we even go to the Open, we had Rosie Streaker, out there just killing it, running mad number of bags, 11.3s, Samantha Finley doing the same thing. That's what the finals looked like, and I feel like if you just get one decent, we have a ton of men in that division rolling bags with at a high level. Where's that one female that could change the outlook of the women's division? I thought it was going to be Peyton Haynes. I thought it was going to be, Bella. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Jake? What are your thoughts on just the whole idea of someone coming into the women's division with a dirty game to change everything up, and who could that be?
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing. The top 3 ladies that came to my head when we started talking about that were Peyton Haynes, Bella Ciprendon, and even a Kaylee Hunter. She's been throwing a little bit of a slower fire bag this season. But it just goes to show that, you have all these women, and then up at the top end, you got Cheyenne Bubenheim, and she's just unstoppable. I mean, she had a little bit of a fall off in Palm Beach, and we saw Sarah Cassidy, another run bag first type of player, come in and take her spot. I watched that entire thing. She averaged a 10-3 over 120 rounds. Sarah Cassidy did. So, I don't know what it takes, but I think the way it sits right now is that if you are not running bags in the hole or willing to make 38 out of 40, 48 out of 50, you're not going to be successful in that women's division, at least not right now. But we say this all the time. There's still a lot of time left in this pro season. We still have 2 more pro events to go. We still have 2 more opens to go. There's still some time for somebody to come in and take that away. I'm looking to see what these Bella Ciprendon, these Peyton Hayneses can do at these final 2 pro events. But as of right now, it is, the Cheyenne Bubenheim and the Sarah Cassidys to lose right now.
Yeah, it's going to take that dirty game to consistently take her down. I'm convinced of that. Yeah, and the shootout doubles, you mentioned Quinn Reeves and Tony Forbes. I actually got to know Quinn Reeves a little bit more, spent some time on the phone talking to him, talked to him a little bit at the Open. Well-spoken dude, super nice guy. And then obviously being able to sit there and watch it closely through a whole match, multiple matches, he's really good. Actually really impressed with this guy. You know, I'm actually surprised we haven't seen him pop off before. You know, it's not like he just got good yesterday. So I assume he's been good at least for multiple months. So, hey, maybe we now see this more out of Quinn Reeves. And it was just crazy to think that a team would come out of the elite. They get into bracket play. And if you look at their bracket run, they avoided the high seed through the whole bracket. Every time they were supposed to play the high seed lost. So coming into this, I'm like, they haven't even really been battle tested. And then you take down the national #1 champ and the national #2 doubles champ. You take down both doubles champs. That is insane. So where maybe I wasn't respecting their game, looking at the bracket coming in, full respect at this point, watching who they had to go through in the semifinal and the final. Unbelievable.
Yeah, if you can go around any venue and see multiple people wearing a T-shirt with a dude's face on it, like Quinn Reeves, you know he's got something. I don't know how many times I walked around and just seen a Quinn Reeves shirt with his face on it. I was like, what is this? But
I don't know. I saw. Did you see the BNE shirts on the Super Hole?
I think
there
so,
was
yeah.
There's
Big
an
Nick
example.
energy.
Big Nick energy. My man, he kind of froze up on the stage a little bit. So we know he's a great player, though. We know he's a great player. Yeah, and then obviously national singles again, another chance for Kano. I really, and this was going to be the next day. So again, he was dealing with all the health issues coming in. That was a Friday night broadcast. He had a whole nother night. I was like, this kid might be able to come in at least for the Saturday singles. Maybe he's healthy enough. You know, he's shook that off, but it was just this thing where it was just like one bag out of every 4 was like that one was left. You know, be good, 3 good bags and then just miss, and then 3 good bags and then just miss, and it was like two ultimately ended up killing him. But yeah, like you said earlier, who's going to stop Jeremiah Ellis? I feel like he's got so much momentum right now. And who we thought, you know, if you look at kind of who's performing, you know, you look at the top 10s, the Mark Richards, the Tony Smiths, the Caleb Batsons, the Ryan Windsors. None of these guys are even in close into the top 10 right now. So it's like, who's out there going to be able to take this guy down? We'll have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, so yeah, very interesting. And that leads us right into buy or sell. And Misha's got a couple on these on here, but I'm going to add some of my own. So, you know, I have, you know, one thing that I think is a very similar look, but also very different is I think Gavin Kano is similar to what Tony Smith was doing last season, right? Making a ton of broadcasts, but really not getting all the way across the finish line. So that leads us to our favorite question. Gavin Kano, buy or sell, has a finishing problem. Jake.
It was tough because we thought he had a finishing problem up until the last Open when he won the Open. So we're like, okay, well, good. His finishing problem is done. He's going to win everything the rest of the year. And then he comes back out, wins a couple brackets, and then doesn't get a dub. So I'm right on the fence with this one, but I think I'm going to have to buy it. I mean, look, I'm as big of a Gavin Kano supporter as anybody, but man, I just want to see him get over that hump on the big stage. He's proven he can win Open. He has multiple Open titles this season, but yet to claim one of those national titles. And until he does that, I think he has a finishing problem. So I'm going to buy it.
Anthony.
Yeah, I've been selling this one since the beginning, but at this point, you can't deny now he's 0 for 5 in 2 events. There's a finishing problem, whatever it is. You know, what's weird too is because his emphasis on the mental side of the game is actually increased, you know, which we would think would be what we're talking about when we say finishing problem. You know, you get to the stage, you go undefeated in your bracket all day, you're killing it. Then you get out there and you sell, you know, and it's like, well, why are you selling? You get nervous, you know, whatever it is. I mean, 0 for 5, he has a finishing problem. Do I think it'll remain forever? The kid is too dang good for it to, you know, if you're not looking at a Jeremiah Ellis who's playing out of his mind right now, we might be talking about, Gavin Connell having a couple national titles in his back pocket too. But yeah, I'm going to have to buy for right now.
Jeremiah Ellis is peaking too early. Jake.
In years past, I would, buy it, but I don't think we've seen anybody as dominant as him on the pro circuit, like, ever. Like, we always talked about Mark Richards, came in that rookie season, the season after rookie season, I would say, and it was just lighting everybody up, killing everybody. But he didn't win, the first two national singles of the season. I mean, Jeremiah Ellis is the first person to ever do it. And now, like we mentioned earlier, we're talking about a grand slam, which has never even been thought of before. Do I think he's peaking too early? No, because I think he can back it up the rest of the season. And the way and the way we've seen it, I don't think anybody can beat him right now. So I'm selling it.
Anthony.
It's like, okay, so I'm dapping him up, hanging out with him at 3:30 in the morning. Trey sees him at 8 o'clock in the morning, the same day. Vegas doesn't take him down. We throw the world champ at him. Jamie Graham comes in. He can't take him down. His mental game is strong. You think he's going to hit the ESPN stage. He's going to get nervous. That doesn't even bother him. If anything, I think he plays better when he gets out there on the ESPN stage. I cannot find a weakness in Jeremiah Ellis's game right now. So there's no way that I would think that he's peaking too early. I think that this is just going to keep going for a while. Obviously, he loses, right? He's lost before. He's not unbeatable. So maybe he takes a loss at some point, but he's going to continue to be top 4, top 5. He's always going to be deep. I just don't see it any other way because he's not beating himself. Vegas didn't get him. I thought Vegas would actually get him. It didn't get him.
Quinn Reeves will finish the year as the best top elite player. Jake.
I love Quinn Reeves. He's a great kid, but I have to sell it because there's one other person in the elite division, and he happened to be throwing the bags back to him on the ESPN broadcast. There is nothing you can tell me that will make me not think that Tony Forbes is the best amateur player in the world right now. I mean, title after title, big win after big win. We've talked a lot about Quinn Reeves today winning the shootout doubles title, but Tony Forbes was right there with him. And arguably he was better than Quinn Reeves. So until something crazy happens, Tony Forbes is my number one, but I still love Quinn. So I'm selling it.
Yeah, what you're saying, it makes complete sense. But gosh, this weekend was just so insane how he popped off. I know Forbes has had more success, showed more consistency. Did Quinn Reeves just have an unbelievable weekend? Where Forbes has shown over multiple opens, over multiple tournaments that he can compete, but the kid is really good. And it's like, we got these other guys like Jaden Ellis, who we thought was going to dominate the elite division. Haven't really seen much from him. Yeah, he's a great player, and he's always going to be, killing it locally. He's going to be deep. But it would have been probably Jaden Ellis, I thought, that we would be talking about right now if this was 3 or 4 months ago, So I don't know. I'm gonna sell.
He's 17th right now. Mark Richards finishes outside the top 20 in singles. Jake.
I'm selling that all day. Selling that. That's probably the easiest buy or sell we've had all season. Selling that. There's no way. I mean, it's Mark Richards. We've talked about him. We talk about him like he's a Greek god when it comes to professional cornhole, but he's had a slow start. It happens. I mean, it's not that he's playing bad. He's just running into people who just happen to be playing better than him. I think he's going to get a break eventually, whether it's in the shootout side or the national side. I can't, with the life of me, put him outside of the top 20. So I have to sell it. But he's going to be there eventually. You just got to give him some time.
All right, real quick. Anthony said sell as well.
Yep.
Top 10.
Sell. Not as quickly of a sell, but I'm going to sell.
Yeah.
His consistency is so good. He's shown that it performs the best at the end of the season. We still have these drops in play. The math is really difficult this year. We can talk about it in the next segment, but sell.
All right. Well, you led us into our next segment, which is we're going to talk about our standings. So if we look at our pro singles standings, number one player in the world, shock, Jeremiah Ellis. And guys, when we talk about points, this guy's got more than a 30-point lead. I mean, we're talking about someone that is essentially running away with this. For him not to finish at the number one player in the world, we're going to have an epic finish by a very select number of people that are winning everything. I mean, Jeremiah Ellis is in prime position to be man of the year. Number 2, Gavin Cano. Number 3, Eric Davis in his shootout singles win jumps all the way up to number 3. He passes number 4, Adam Hissner, as well as number 5, now Braden Wilson. That kind of caps off our top 5 that have made a ton of broadcasts. Those are the ones that have been featured multiple times each, the ones that we're seeing on a much more consistent basis. Then as we jump down, number 6 is Ryan Trader, number 7, Sammy Soto, 8, Ian Cripps, 9, Chris Roybal, and then 10 tied Ryan Hart and Steven Bernasette. Before we jump into doubles, Jake, thoughts on our new top 10 in pro singles?
Yeah, I mean, it's got a good mixture. A couple of people who you obviously suspect to be up there, but then you got a couple of people who you're a little surprised to see up there. I mean, starting at the very top, obviously coming into last weekend, my big discussion was, Jeremiah 1A, Gavin 1B. Obviously, Jeremiah has kind of pushed himself away from Gavin after this weekend. So Jeremiah 1, Gavin 2, no surprise. Eric Davis up at the number 3 spot. I like it. I want to see him do something on the national side. Obviously, we know he's probably the greatest shootout player in cornhole. However, I want to see him, burst through on the national side as well. Because right now, if I had to decide, I would probably put Adam Hissner over him. Adam Hissner, 2 national singles brackets, 2 national singles bracket wins. So not a lot of people are talking about him. I think Braden's at a great spot at 5. I think Trader's at a good spot at 6. I wouldn't be surprised if Trader moves up a little bit as the season progresses, but then you start getting down to the 7, 8, 9, 10. You start to get a little surprised. I mean, Ian Cripps in that 8 spot coming off a shootout singles title at the kickoff battle, but then you, like we mentioned it, you haven't really heard his name a lot since, so I want to see what he can do. Sammy Soto, I haven't really heard his name at all on the singles side, but, he keeps having these top 5, top 10 finishes, and that's what happened. You're going to get your name up there. You move down to number 9, Chris Roybal is my personal favorite. He's finished second in both of his shootout singles brackets at both nationals. So you got to give him some credit there. I think he's well deserving at that 9 spot. And then we talked about Ryan Hart a lot. Ryan Hart sneaking in on that 10 spot, tied with Steven Bernasette. Steven Bernasette's another player that we don't talk about a lot. So I'm excited to see what he can do with 2 more nationals to go. But Ryan Hart proving that, he belongs on the single side as well as the double side. So got to give him some credit there.
Anthony, thoughts on singles?
Yeah. Thought is, this is wild. Like, show me anyone's top 10 before we went into the first national that was even close to this. This is wild. Obviously, Jeremiah Ellis, Gavin Cano, we all had those guys in our top 10. They were performing in the opens. We're basing our rankings on what we saw in the preseason, what people were showing in the opens, because that's what we have to go off of. But if you were going to tell me Eric Davis, the only person that had Eric Davis at number 3 on their list was his brother. There's no one else that had Eric Davis at top 3. I love seeing it. Because his game is so fun to watch. I want more and more of that on the broadcast, and we're getting it. Even Adam Hissner. We knew Adam Hissner was playing well. We all started moving him close to our top 10, but 4? I mean, that's crazy. And I think we got to talk a lot about these guys that are probably playing consistent. If you're telling me Ryan Trader and Sammy Soto are ahead of Ian Cripps, who won a broadcast already, that tells me they're consistently right outside of broadcast. That means they don't have the bonus points, but they're still in that top 6, 7 discussion because they're finishing probably bracket finals all the time or losers finals. That's a good sign, because I think if you have that consistency, you don't need to win you don't need to win a national or a shootout to be able to finish top 10. But if you consistently finish in a bracket final, you're going to be a top 10 dude come the end of the year. Obviously, we got to talk about who's not there. How crazy is this? You know, we all had Caleb Batson in our top 10. He's 127th. We all had Ryan Windsor hovering around 10, some of us inside. He's 122. You know, Jackson Gore, who's playing better than he has. Go back to his rookie year. I think he's playing that good in the 80s. AJ Sims in the 80s. The rookie Caden Allen is 63. Matthew Creekiller, who was 14 last year, he's 58. You got a Hunter Thorne, who was a top 11 guy last year at 54. So obviously a lot of season left because, one, the math gets really complicated. One, you get to drop your worst national. We know all that. Two, and this is the part that I don't think we were thinking about. Well, we were thinking about it, but it's hard to do the calculus, is adding a shootout to the rankings this year. You throw a shootout into that. We know it's, you know, you see – it's the flip of the coin. Yes, we're going to get people showing up deep into shootout doubles and singles that we don't typically expect to see there because it is a shootout format. The reverse of that is the players that we expect to see are going to go 0-2, are going to go 1-2. So right now with only 2 shootouts, some of those players have some really rough points. But if they have 2 more shots at it, we could see the math completely flip around. Drop a national, add a good shootout, your top 10 could completely shuffle up. So we'll have to see how that works out.
Really quick into doubles. Number 1, Ryan Hart and Jeremiah Ellis. Number 2, Vincent Frisch and Austin Cameron. Number 3, Matt Sorrells and Eric Davis. Crazy top 3. Just absolutely insane.
What is happening?
Number 4, Kyle Malone, Devin Harbaugh. 5, Wiedenfeld and Smith. 7, Gilbert and Norton. 8, Rawls and Holland. Also tied for 8, Gore and Soto. Real quick thought, Jake.
Yeah, my craziest thing, Vincent Frisch, Austin Cameron, they were the number 1 doubles team going into shootout doubles in Colorado on Sunday. They didn't even show up, did not play, went 0-2, and they're still number 2. Crazy. I'm really excited to see what they can do the rest of the season. I expect Malone and Harbaugh to move up as the season progresses as well.
Anthony, quick thought on doubles.
Corey Gilbert, Dean Norton, love you guys. So awesome. I do not see that number 7 sticking around.
Not at all.
Love you guys. Don't beat me up next time I see you, but that's not going to happen. Yeah, and then again, the same idea. I mean, where are the teams that we, you know, I mean, look at that list. There's just so many teams. But again, you know, Smith and Richards a good example. I think they went like 1-2 or something in the last shootout. You know, they haven't been getting the looks that they expected to, but it's all going to change. We're going to drop a national, replace a shootout, 2 more opportunities, plus Worlds, which is going to bring everybody's best. We'll get another shuffle of the deck here.
Time for hot takes. Jake, hot take.
All right, this is going really deep into the future, and this is burning hot. Jeremiah Ellis will not lose a national singles game until the 2024 World Championships, where he will run into world champions Jamie Graham. World's Jamie Graham, another level.
Well, did you say he's going to win all the nationals?
Yep.
Yep. That is scalding hot, dude. That is scalding hot.
I can't see where he loses the way he's playing right now.
Anthony.
Okay, I'm going to go with just back to the theme of the rankings. I'm trying to grab one here that I think I'm going to go with Ryan Windsor. He's sitting 122 right now. I bet I'm going to go hot take by the end of the season. Ryan Windsor's a top 25 guy. He's sitting at 122.
I'm going to go rivalries. I'm going to say we're going to have these 2 budding rivalries that are going to form. One of them, Jeremiah Ellis and Jamie Graham. They will play each other 3 times.
Oh, I love that.
On broadcast, and it will develop into a little rivalry. I don't know yet who wins what, but I like that. And 2, on the women's side, you guys talked all about the women, and you forgot who displaced Cheyenne Bubenheim for a very short amount of time to become the number 1 woman in the world, and then she was dethroned again. Miranda Coy and Cheyenne Bubenheim begin to have this battle. Miranda has that shot selection that can give her fits, and they battle it out in the World Championships as well. So I think that'll be a lot of fun. That's all the time that we got for Jake, Anthony. This has been Trey saying so long, and we will see you next week.